Welcome. Sorry I'm late. 4:43 Thursday. Printrbot Live. This is Brooke Drum. So this is our mock-up. And I say mock-up because I have yet to add the motors and the lead screws. This we are, Dave, did we decide on what we're going to call this? So this is just going to be a plain English title or moniker or name for this. It's really a CNC. It's a router. So I don't have my DeWalt in here, but the DeWalt 611 fits this mount. This mount can be changed out. But we're going to offer this thing as a kit. And I went back and forth, and we've been talking about the Adopt-A-Bot CNC. You would call this the Adopt-A-Bot CNC if you ordered a bare bones kit, which are not in the store yet, and you had a CNC to cut one. So the Adopt-A-Bot is for schools to donate a 3D printer to schools that you yourself printed all the parts, you bought the bare bones kit, the hardware and stuff from me. And if you follow adoptabot.org or the stuff that we've been doing, we've got some now that are getting out into schools and people are making those. We make 3D printers here, but for a long time we've made CNCs as well. Now, I think I priced them a little bit out of reach for most, so I've slashed my Printrbot CNC. That was the metal CNC that will fit on your bench out in your garage. It's very heavy. It's very rigid. It was overkill. But there's a few more left, 4 or 5. I don't know. There's a handful left in our store. You have to order your own rails and what else? Your own router and your own extrusion. But if you get into CNC and you start looking at the different designs, there's a wide range of options, but believe me, this thing, in fact, our Printrbot CNC cut all the parts for this. Excuse me. I'll tell you about this in just a second, but I do want you to know that the Printrbot CNC is on sale for $4.99 in the store. When they're gone, they're gone. And in fact, I love it so much that I've decided to keep some for myself. Why? Because we're actually going to use them to make this. And this is what I'm going to call the, did we say benchtop? Okay, just simple English, benchtop CNC. So the Printrbot benchtop CNC. And when I say benchtop, this is, the one that the Printrbot CNC is pretty long. So if you set it, I think the cutting is 18 or 16, anyway. It's about like that. So if you set it on your desk in your garage, you'd have to turn it sideways, and it would cut this way. Also, it's so rigid that it's got 2 metal plates, and the router sits right in the middle. So you got the router sitting right in the middle of these 2 plates. So to see, it's a little bit tough. This is more in the style of how I designed both. And by the way, this isn't like totally unique to me. A lot of people make CNCs that kind of look like this. I'll tell you why this one is unique. But this one looks more like a Printrbot. I showed it to my wife this morning, and she's like, "Oh, you're done with that?" And I said, "Yeah, we're building it today." And she goes, "That looks like a Printrbot." I was like, "Right on." Because it is very minimalistic. It's the least amount of hardware, but I think the right choices. So these are 12 millimeter rails. See, I don't have the lead screw in. But these are 12 millimeter rails, dual 12 millimeter rails. These are, every axis has 4 of these LM 12 UU. Anyway, they're 12 millimeter roller bearings. So this is going to be very, very sturdy. Since this is just a mock-up, I haven't even tightened down all these screws yet, I just noticed. We got it together so you could see it. What it looks like on, I almost said film, but what are we, on video. But anyway, so this is 12 millimeter rails, the LM whatever 12 UUs. This is MDF. I haven't decided if it's going to be MDF or I'm going to find some plywood. I'm just not sure. Let's see. So there's 4 15-inch 12 millimeter rails. This is 4 inches. So a lot of these little guys only have a couple of inches on the Z. This one has 4. I might have to adjust. We'll see how well that router performs when I got my board on there to cut. But what else do I want to tell you? It's going to have a printer board on it, and either Marlin or Gerbil. And then there'll be a bunch of upgrades for this. So if you wanted to get started in CNC and something that fits on your desk and you can stand in front of it and face it, I think this is a really good start. And my guys that work for me, they're pretty excited about this. In fact, we had this designed late yesterday. I finished it and put some more holes that I forgot and stuff. And Mark, one of my guys that does 3D design with me, he has never pathed anything in his life. Okay, he pathed one part on this a couple of days ago, and we used Fusion 360 to design it, so I'll release the files. And in fact, we should probably, well, you know what, there is some cleanup I need to do in that. I don't want to release those files today. But these files are in Fusion 360, so you can look at them. But we also pathed them to be cut on the Printrbot CNC. And the idea is this unit would be able to cut the parts for another one of these. So you see how this is similar to Adopt-A-Bot? It's a rep-wrap style thing. You can get one of these or a Printrbot CNC, and you can make more of these if you like. Now you're still going to need hardware, electronics, and wired. You don't see all that on here yet. That adds a lot of cost. I did the BOM today, and to see what this costs, and I'll just level with you. I think it's $300 and some dollars, 300 and some change worth of materials and labor, and I put the labor real low. You got packaging, but really what's valuable is your time. So yeah, you could buy a cheap Adopt-A-Bot style kit, which I have no idea what that will sell for, because what I'll have to do to bring the price down is I'll have to donate the boards, I'll have to do, maybe you'll buy some of your own hardware and stuff. So when I don't have to mark up things, it saves you money. But this is going to be an actual kit, so all included. So the Adopt-A-Bot version of this will be just a strip to the bare bones kit. You got to get your own MDF, you got to have a CNC to do it. But maybe this will be a design that we'll see in some schools if, you know, it'll get a little bit, I mean, the community tends to take some of my things and like make it better or tweak it out for themselves and stuff. I can see a couple of 3D printed parts on here holding the electronics, keeping the sawdust out, and stuff like that. But anyway, I think it's a great beginning. This is going to be $4.99 on sale. It's going to be regular $5.99. It has these are rough numbers. I think it's a smidge over on one and a smidge under on the other, and I'm going to try to get that to where it's just 10 by 10. So the X and Y is 10 by 10. Let's see, this is all the way at the back. This is all the way at the front. It won't be any belts. It's all Acme rod lead screw. I think 4-start, but we'll see. I have other Acme. So this is 10. This is 10. And this is 4. And the router sticks down a little bit. When you go up on with your router, you got to clear your bit 4 inches. So this is 4 inches off of 3/4 inch material that would sit on top. It looks a little short of 4 inches now that I look at it. I hope that's right. Anyway, hold on, let me check. Let's see. Oh, it is. Actually, it's more than 4. Oh. Oh, no. Well, it's 5 to this plate. But with the router down here, it looks like it's more like... I'll see if I can correct this. It's shy of 4, but I'll try to get it to 4. It's at least 3.5. I can just extend this, but you don't want to go too high on a small one. So 3.5 to 4. So anyway, that's the cut size. MDF plastic. You could probably do aluminum, but I don't want to promise anything until I actually do it myself and you see it with your own eyes. So that is the Printrbot Benchtop CNC. So if you want to ask questions about it, you sure can. What was I saying? I don't know what the bare bones kit will be. That'll be later. I'm going to sell these first. So if you're trying to convince your spouse, well, I want to get into CNC, but I don't want to spend too much. There's always cheap Chinese stuff on Amazon, but you got to buy a whole bunch of stuff. This will be an all-included kit. Everything's there. Just open the box, turn the screws, put the kit together, and you will have to buy your router because that's a preference choice. And this mount does come off, so you could 3D print one or make your own mount. It's funny, some of the mounts that I've seen online when people build their own CNC, I mean, literally, I've seen what are those, hose clamps, things like that, but this is designed for the 611, which I think is the best choice right now, at least one of the top choices. So, a router and $500 on sale right now. It'll be $600 later. What am I forgetting, Dave? Anything? CNC. Oh yeah. Okay. So that's gonna. Is this on sale right now? So this is live now. So if you want to get on the list, we're only going to put 25 available, so we can get our feet wet. It will be a 2-week lead time. My goal will be to get them shipped before that. I mean, this will be running tomorrow. I just ran out of time. So it is real. I will support you. We are in the U.S. It's not Amazon. It's a real person, selling this from Northern California. So $500 is mid-tier. You could get something with belts and that does really, really light work. I think we've got a good chance of going slow but milling aluminum faster than you could and more accurately than you could with belts. So that's that. So 25 of you folks can sign up, buy that, and I want to tell you about the software. So this is kind of cool. We were running the Printrbot CNC, and for a couple years now, when we were cutting these parts, for a couple years we've said, hey, no Windows, Mac only. Well, the reason we said that is we don't provide software, or didn't provide software for Windows. I said it does run on Windows, but you got to go find your own software, and that frustrated some people. So I've talked about it a couple of times, but I found this new program called CNC.js, and this is available. Can you see this, or do you want me to tilt it? What do you need? So this is, it looks a lot like Linux CNC or something like that. Whoop, why did I just close it? Come here. See if I can expand this. Okay. The reason I like this so much is, number one, it looks like a real CNC host. And there were some others that have come out in years past that, and including the one that we did. Ours was like a super basic, load your G code and go. All you could do is manually, you can move the gantry around, set it where you're going to start. And how the process goes is you actually lower your bit till it touches the face of this, and you say, okay, 0 out Z. So it knows, okay, I'm touching the surface. And then you can kind of move it up a little bit, and when you're ready to go, you have to home X, Y, and Z so that you have not home like you think 3D printer, where it's like down here and over here and homing. But you got to manually place it, 0 out your Z height, and then you can cut. Well, that's all that our Mac software did. But this CNC.js is much more full-featured. I plugged it into that other one that I had, that mock-up that I did. It did run, but I never cut with it because I decided Dremel's not for me. It's going to be a router or a spindle. So I hooked this up today, and you can use Marlin to run it. You can use Gerbil. My printer board will run Gerbil or Marlin, and that has both. And then it has one full panel here, or an option when you connect to the Tiny G. So I wondered, would our Tiny G, it's called G2 Core, is their new firmware, and our Simple Pro, the white one, our Simple Pro printer runs the Tiny G software. It's a 32-bit ARM processor. It has nice steppers. It has really, really good acceleration. And I wondered, would CNC.js run it off of one of my G2 printer boards? Plugged it in, connected, no problem. It is on a Mac, but this software runs on Linux and Windows. And boom, it connected, and I ran my code. Like, I didn't have to do anything. It was crazy. So we changed the language on our website on the Crawlbot page. We can change the language on the Printrbot CNC page. It's already done. Dave's fast. And we're more positive about it because we're excited about this software. Now, let's see, I can't tell you a ton about this because there's extra stuff. Like this is what I'm going to do. Now, I plugged it into my computer, but you should have seen us out there. We actually started routing indoors, and the sawdust on this is nasty, and we haven't built our, on the Printrbot CNC, we haven't printed one of our, what's it called, the sawdust exhaust, like the vacuum attachment for a shop vac. And so it was just blowing around the shop, made a mess. So I said, let's go outside. We went outside, and we were cutting. But Gabriel had his laptop there, and I came out to check on him and Jonathan, and it was covered in sawdust, like completely and totally covered. So you're going to want at least a shop vac. You're going to want to do it in your garage, and you're going to want to get a respirator. You can tell I'm like stuffed up because I breathed that sawdust a little bit. But anyway, so what I'm going to do, instead of putting my laptop out beside the Printrbot Benchtop, I got to practice, Printrbot Benchtop CNC, I'm going to put a Raspberry Pi on it because this CNC-JS actually can be put on a Raspberry Pi, and you can even put a webcam on it, but do not leave your CNC routing unattended, period. When I was explaining the difference between 3D printing and CNC to my wife today, I said, well, really, 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 really hard to start a fire with Printrbot. I mean, you'd have to have things break and stuff go wrong and, your vodka spill over or whatever. But on this, you've got a spinning bit at 6,000 RPM or 12,000 RPM on basically sawdust and glue or wood, and that's a real safety concern. You got to wear safety glasses when you operate this. You want to take all the precautions for safety. So, by the way, that reminds me, I want to get a e-stop on here, but anyway, it's different. It's a little bit. It's very, very dusty. It's a lot more messy. But what's cool about it is my guys were pretty excited because they were like, "Oh my gosh, I can make parts." When you print a part, I had a part on my paste extruder. Actually, I was running the paste extruder yesterday, and I realized that the print that they did for that top panel was like 10% infill and like 2 walls. So I was running it up and down. I was actually printing with wall compound. It was pretty ugly, but it was working. And boom, it blew out the 3D printed part. Well, when you make parts with 3D printed plastic, they're only going to be so strong. Now, you could do ABS, you could do 100% infill, you could anneal it in the oven, you could, paint epoxy on the outside, but all that's hard. If you put a piece of HDPE or even Delrin down on this, you can mill that, and that is like a real part that you can use that has so much more strength than 3D printed plastic. Now, it makes a mess. You got to learn how to path. But like I said, Mark just learned in a couple of days, and he pathed all of this all in a day. In fact, we didn't even start till after lunch. I think their lunch is a little earlier. But so I said, okay, let's path these parts and build this. Mark pathed them. The guys ran the CNCs, first time they've ever run a CNC, a CNC router. So, I mean, they've run the Crawlbot maybe a couple of times. But this style, they were running the CNCs out back, and we got all the parts cut. There was like 3 failures, and it's because the pathing was bad. But anyway, it's just kind of an exciting day for me. This is real. It is for sale. I'm excited about it. This software, it's just great timing. You'll see mine running on a Raspberry Pi next week, so I can show you, isn't this nice? You can have a tablet or your phone or a computer to kick off, and you don't have to get sawdust all over the place. And really, what's nice is you don't have to be tethered by a USB cable. That USB cable will just stick on the back here. So that's what we're going to be doing. So, questions? I did have one more show and tell, but you might get a couple of questions ready. So this is what we found. This is, finally, I found why my parts were printing wonky on the printer belt. Does that look right to you? That's supposed to be a square. Can you see that? That's supposed to be a square. So I was printing on the printer belt, and this just was all kinds of wrong. So we tore the machine apart, and I forgot that you know, these 3D printed pieces here, they're only so round. We didn't put them on the lathe. Not too bad on these idler bearings, but on the drive side, we had 3D printed plastic, and it dawned on me, let's machine some parts. So we've got a big lathe out there, and Mark turned these down, and so now we have a little bit different mechanism for the drive gear. But you talk about true and no wobble, no slip. This is really, really nice. I wish I could even take it apart to show you, but so I think our last hurdle for getting this Printrbot printer belt finished up. But now this is running so straight. It's very tight here. It's looking very good. There's no slop. The only slop in this is it is a geared motor, but it only has slop when you back it up. Once you go forward again, it goes to the same place. So there's no retraction on Z. Once the print starts, you only move one direction. So there won't be any slop in Z, and I'm very happy about that fix. So now we can, come out guns blazing with this finally. I was getting nervous about that thing. It was just giving me so much trouble. But now we're ready to finish that up. So for the next, who knows, I'll be updating you on this and the printer belt, and we'll get these things. Well, this is for sale because it's easy. That's a little harder, but that's what we'll be talking about. I wanted to show you that new piece that we made. Nice machined aluminum. It's going to be awesome. All right, any questions? You got Winter Brook here today. Look at me. I got a, yeah, I didn't shave. I think it's kind of obvious, but.
Okay, I'll just go chronological because there aren't a whole lot about specific.
Okay.
Hey, Brooke, you get my email about Dual from Thomas. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Dual.
Just to say, did you get my email about Dual? He's the guy.
Probably.
Simple with Dual.
Oh, the Simple with Dual. Yeah, I actually had to tear mine apart because we needed to send a guy a Dual. So I've been talking with the gentleman that has the Dual extrusion working on, I believe it's a Simple, right? And he is even doing, I think he's the one that's going to 4. I think if that's right. But anyway, so yeah, we still have the community, it's really pretty few people in the community that are pursuing multi-color, multi-material extrusion. And those are always possible to do on even printers that have been made for one extruder. But it's really scared me to get into it again and realize how hard the modeling is, because you have to do 2 separate models, bring them together. So our friend Thomas, is that his name? Our friend Thomas is driving ahead, and he sent me links to the files that he had prepared. I think it was a Thingiverse. And he's going to help me get the Dual extruder, one for myself, running. So it's just going to be one of those back burner things, but I really appreciate Thomas. It's just so great to have a community that's willing to help you out. Because I'm not an expert on Dual printing. I mean, it's tough. And so you have to change the firmware. You have to build your own stuff, print your own stuff. But for some, pretty cool, because it does open up the possibility of support and printing things that you wouldn't be able to print normally. What else you got? Hey, you know what? That is a great question. I know I wear these shirts all the time. You ought to. Like I have the Simple shirt. I've got this one. I got my America. What is that called? United States of Makers, or United Space of Makers. But anyway, so I am going to do some T-shirts. I have them all here. I'm even going to do them myself. Or, us here. Because I already have the shirts and the screen printing gear and stuff. It's always been something I wanted to get into. So I will be doing some shirts. They're all gray. So I don't know which one would be the most popular. If you want to chime in on to Dave, do you want one with the old Simple? Do you want one with the new Simple and that kind of drawing that I wear sometimes? Do you just want a simple Printrbot T-shirt? I could do a couple, but I will be doing that. No promises on when, but I can't wait to do it. And I've been waiting for the first of the year to release some of those T-shirts because a lot of people ask, and I usually have just given them out to employees. I sold them in a couple of shows. They don't really sell that great. I did sell them in the store for a while. It took forever, though.
I don't know if it's just been bad. I think maybe my logos were not that attractive, but I got the best shirt I could find. There's a mosquito in here. Do you mind closing that door now? I got the best shirt.
Oh, Dave, you're going to have outtakes. Anyway,
one thing I didn't skimp on was the quality of shirt. I hate it when you get like a $10 shirt and the guy spent $2 on it, and it's, you know, you wash it twice and it's junk. I got that really, really nice cottony shirt. I don't know what the difference is, but they're nice. And it's just a neutral gray, and I'm probably going to do white. So anyway, if you, what do you want on your Printrbot T-shirt, or do you just want to keep it simple? Any feedback?
A little bit.
We'll look at it.
Yeah, let's keep taking comments on the T-shirt. Next is, do you know what the price would be for the Printrbot G2 plus LCD screen? I think we're talking about a couple weeks ago. You showed looking it up for the Legacy. Do you have any ideas?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. I just priced the printer hub. It's around, it's not cheap. What I'd like to do is offer, we're still waiting on the cloud to be able to do this, because you could use the cloud for any size printer, but you have to send the G-code file, or G-code, but it's a different extension, GCO. We allow G-code files in the cloud. And you could use our cloud with our electronics and touchscreen to run. I mean, you could even run a CNC theoretically, because it's just a G-code file. But I've been hesitant to do that because it's really not easy. You can't use the touchscreen with all the nice stuff in the touchscreen. So we're doing a few things with our firmware, and I've been talking to Philip over in Germany and Ryan here in Lincoln, and we've got a plan. I even talked to Mick over. We had a drink last week. I think it was last week, and we talked through some of the implications. But the goal is to change our software, our cloud software, to enable you to put any starting G-code in.
now, if you use our printer, what you may not know is that homing sequence on the Simple Pro, and then it auto levels on 3 points, and then it warms up. Different order. But anyway, and then it purges from all of that, from the beginning to all of that through the purge, is which it spits out filament to kind of prime it. That's handled by the machine, and you can't easily, it's possible, but you can't easily change that if you're a newbie. And so if you throw a G-code file at it and you wanted to use heatbed or something, it can be problematic. So it's a little bit tough that we put that barrier in front of you. We did it to make it easy, but what always happens with me is I try to make things one way because that's the way I want them. And people says, no, we don't. Some people say, no, I don't want it that way. I want it another way. So we're opening it up where that opening sequence can completely be configured by you, which also means you'll be able to send it that starting G-code to tell the board, hey, I'm a different size printer. I have a different tip on my hot end. I have different lead screws or whatever. So it really opens it up to be used with any printer. So I didn't really want to sell electronics as a full package until that is done. And we're getting closer, but it's not there.
Now, if you're a diehard fan and really want to investigate the electronics, then me and Dave will talk about the price. I can't really quote right now because I'm just not ready to, but I would guess it's somewhere around, see, here's what you need. You would need, I just realized that I think I know who asked that question. So if you wanted the LCD hub and the new G2, and I would recommend the power board, which manages the power, has that nice switch and everything that you can plug to it. From that point, you have to decide, do you want to use regular wires going to your motors, or do you want to use that ribbon cable outfit? So that adds a little cost or not. But I think it's going to be somewhere in, it's going to have to be $150 for the whole package. Is that where you were going, Dave?
Yeah, just looking at a couple of components just listed.
Yeah. So it's going to have to be upwards around $150 for the whole package. But yeah, then you could add it to any printer because it's really nice, I'll tell you that. Also, one other, I may have thought of the guy that was asking me this question, but I wanted to say one more thing. There are people that were used to printing with the old printer board and like no, headless, no LCD screen, no nothing. Not even the old one with the dial and like the 1980s calculator graphics, like just the 20 character by 4 lines. But some people like that. It's like good enough for them. They know how to use it. We've got some nice features in the printer board to be able to resize, do some M codes and G codes to change how the printer runs and stuff. It works with that LCD. You can like turn it up faster if you want. So all of that they're used to. Now I think that's going to slowly fade away as years go by with 3D printers. You're going to see more touchscreens, Wi-Fi, cloud software, or at least easier software to use. Cura is getting better and better. And those that change between the printer board, the way 3D printing has been for years, and a 32-bit ARM with a touchscreen and a cloud and all that, that's actually a big leap for some people. And it's hard for them. And so I do have this one gentleman that has he has a bot farm, and I think he does some business with printed items. And he was so used to his simple metal, I think it was simple metal. He might have a Plus, maybe even an old wood one, but he's making these great looking parts with this old hardware. I say old, 3-4 years old. And maybe it's 2 years. But then he bought a new Simple Pro, and it's like so different. It was kind of frustrating for him. So he's gone back and forth with me, and I said, well, if you want to swap out, if you want to like send me back the LCD and the G2 board, I'll send you a printer board, and then you're back to like comfort level again. And he goes, yeah, that actually might make sense because he's so used to it. He has all his files prepared for the old printer board. He's probably going to match up the nozzles and the hot ends and all that. So if you're running a bot farm, I could see where you wouldn't want 2 different styles of printers. You just want one way of doing things. So, but I've really hesitated on retrofitting the Plus Pro. I'm sorry, the Simple Pro with the old electronics because it's going backwards in my estimation. So I'm not really offering that, but you could do that if you wanted to. You could order a printer board. You could order a Legacy Shield. Do we sell those separately? We may want to think about that. The reason why is you can use it to like do the opposite. You can use it to have the G2 not require the ribbon cable. But if you have the ribbon cable going to the G2 with all the G2 electronics, you can actually use that. Maybe it's a different version of it, but it's the same board. I forget if the connectors are the same. But anyway, you can use that Legacy board to go the reverse. Actually go from the ribbon cable, break it out to all the motor wires so that you can plug it into an old printer board. So if somebody wanted to do that, the stuff's available in our store. You may have to ask me about that, make a note. That Legacy board, I may want to demonstrate that. So if people want to go back to the way they're used to doing things, you could. But I'm not going to sell it as a product, all put together and done like that. We make one printer 2 ways. With heat. What's the other way? Without heat. I was like, wait, yeah, we sell it without heat. All right. What? My sister's watching? She doesn't know anything about this stuff. So I don't know why she's watching. I think she's worked for Printrbot before, though. Isn't that right? Like years ago, she did some work for Printrbot. Eli and her kids. Anyway, hello. What else?
Will your UBIS 13S HT hot end eventually be able to modify and enable to be used with other extruders? It just seems like such a beast of a 500C hot end that needs unleashing.
Yeah, so well, I guess I don't totally understand your question. So we've used what is called the groove mount. It was just one of the early, I don't even know why they did it. I think people were putting it through a hole and like putting these C clips on it to hold the hot ends. It just kind of stuck with us. We clamp it. So as far as the form factor, you can't like switch it out to some standardized size and use it with any extruder. You might have to do a little modification to your extruder, like a little sleeve or something. But beyond that, it's a 12-volt. I'm sorry, it's a 24-volt. You can power this thing with any 12-volt 3D printing system with a FET running the hot end, which is all of them. You can use it to run a 24-volt hot end like we have. So what would keep you? Oh, we're publishing the. All you need is to change the. I make it sound easy, right? You would need to, if you're running plain old Marlin, you would need to load a new thermistor table, essentially. It's not a thermistor, but it's a lookup table, a PID lookup table that, if we haven't published it yet, I have it. It's no secret. It's not proprietary in any way. That table. So anyway, it would work just like another hot end. So you could use it on anything you wanted to. What's stopping you? Get one of those. Does he say? Oh yeah, they're not in stock. But you know what? Carl's a little bit behind on. I hope he's not watching. There's a few things that he has not delivered to me, and I wrote him an email saying, "Hey, when are we going to get that stuff?" So I apologize for that. I know he's making a lot of hot ends, and he has bought a lot of parts, and we'll get him back in the store.
Next question. Could you position the printer board at the front of that Benchtop CNC?
This right here, sure.
Because the USB cable would be easier to plug in.
That is true. That is true. My hope is that you will choose to use a Raspberry Pi, and you can put it out of the way. Is there room underneath? There is, actually. There would be room underneath, but I'd recommend it on the back. But yeah, you could mount it here. That mount isn't going to be anything super permanent. This is missing a little bearing here for the Acme rod. So you'd have to put it off to one side or something, or just have it separate. But yeah, you could. I'm going to try this without E-chain because it does. 10 inches is not that far to go with your wire. You got to have a router cable come down here. It'll crimp off to this side, so there'll be a loop of wire that just kind of rides behind here and goes back and forth. But this one might benefit from a chain. What's it called? The E-chain. So I may have to put that on here because you got one. Excuse me. You got one motor. Just hit my mic. You got one motor at the back here that's going to drive that. So yeah, these, like I said, this is the major unveiling, but there's some small details I'll have to work out before I start shipping these in a couple weeks. Anything else? I'm kind of wanting to wrap up.
Commenting on it, you can say, you got any other questions?
Yeah.
Here's one. What's your favorite thing to make for fun? What do you like to make?
Man, I tell you, somebody's asking, what do I like to make for fun? I'm just obsessed with machines that move and do work. So you'll find me, and when I say work, I mean not a static thing. I need 2 or more parts that fit together and work with each other. And I like stuff with motors. So, I've made so many machines, designed so many machines and made so many machines. And, a lot of them are bad, but I made them and I tried them one time and then I improved it and I made another one. At some point, when you're learning to design in 3D, Dave, we've been talking a little bit about 3D design. You find out that you've been doing it wrong. And, it's impossible sometimes when you're designing a model to fix what you have broken, and it's better to just start over. And it's amazing how when you struggle with the design, like this one, I'm not kidding. If there's not 12, that's overstating. There's probably at least 6 or 7 distinct. They look totally different. And then I landed on this. Each time I started with a new design, a totally blank slate, and I just referred to the other design, but I knew how to draw it without all this push-pull and all my sketches get all screwed up. It's a much, much cleaner design to just start over and do it right on that last time when you're ready to build it. So that's what we did here. And even this version, it's probably over 20 different updates. And this model is only about a week old. So, lots and lots of design to make all these parts fit together and then build it. And you can even see there's some gaps. We have to, there's a lot of missing stuff on here that you don't see because I wanted it to just be in here with me. But it takes a long, long time to build machines from scratch. So it's just what I like to do, though. I like things that do work. So with motors and that move and that can open up like a superpower or a skill that you haven't had before. So I'll continue to make these machines. It's kind of my hobby, but it's also my job. I got excited about this one because the story of you have a small little affordable $500 right now is on sale. You got affordable, respectable. It can do real work. You know, you can make stuff with it. And the story of this thing could make another machine. I just love that. So that's what I've been doing for 6 years. Made printers that could make other printers and make other CNC and or laser cutters, anything you want. So I'm kind of interested to move on. I want to get 2 or 3 options for people. This kind of entry level that, and I'm not going to lie to you, some entry level machines are crap because they use belts and they're not going to do a lot of real work. You can do light work, but it's not going to do real work. This, my goal is for it to do real work. But it's MDF, and so, you know, as I was cutting stuff and drilling stuff, you know, MDF is a certain flavor of, it's basically glue and sawdust, you know what I mean? So, but if you build it right, it can be very sturdy, and it's cheap, and for you to replace a part would be no big deal. But I'm kind of leaning towards plywood on my next one, but really what I want is a benchtop CNC that is bigger, so whatever we call the next one, it'll be a slightly different form factor, but I don't know, it might be similar. I want one that's a little bit bigger, that's a little bit more money. I want to keep it under $1,000, but that one will replace these MDF or wood parts with metal, and probably some of the same hardware, but I might use the extruded aluminum pieces a little more. But that'll be a real workhorse for people that, this got my appetite going for CNC, but I need something that's maybe bigger, maybe faster, stronger, that type of thing. You know, not NEMA 17, but NEMA 20, what's the next one? NEMA 23. You could outfit that. So I want to build other machines. I'd love to do a lathe someday. I'd love to do a 5-axis CNC, but you know, a lot of that stuff gets expensive. So that's my hobby, long-winded answer. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I think we're out. If you're brave, want to be one of the first ones to get one of these. I kind of look at this as, where is it? I look at this guy like I look at the Simple Makers Kit. It's a place to get started. I mean, this is, look at the puny little, you know, look at the puny little zip ties and all this. And this was $300, and people like fell over and got in line for these because 3D printing was new. CNC isn't new, but for this to be, if you wanted to make some, I always use the example, if you want to make a pedal for your bike or a chain guard or something like that, you wouldn't 3D print it, you would CNC it. So if you're thinking about getting one of these, get on it fast because we're only going to do 20 in the next month probably. And then as we get used to, you know, CNCing these things, and we can bring our production up, then we'll release more. But you got one chance to get in on the beginning because this is kind of where the DIY might start for CNC. So I'm excited. Thank you guys. Have a great week.